We haven't talked about the NBA in a little while here on this channel. The NFL's in full swing. The NBA is in the middle of their all season. Obviously, there's just not much to talk about when it comes to the NBA. I mean, we're kind of in a lull here, or a much needed break. I mean, to be honest, with the NBA being so political this past season, I think we all needed a break from the NBA and some of its star players. We're starting to see an uptick in NFL ratings. The league is beginning to rebound a little bit. I think because they have abandoned the woke political narrative and shifted their focus to what they do best: play football. Now imagine that. The National Football League is primarily focused on playing elite football. Smart business plan, if you ask me. And it seems to be working for the NFL. Week 7 saw some of the best television ratings of the season thus far. CBS averaged nearly 23 million viewers last week. Fox was up 20% over week 7 last year. Thursday night football between the Falcons and the Panthers. Not exactly what I would call a sexy matchup from a national perspective. Ratings were up, watched by about 12 million people. Now this is good. This is good for the NFL. It seems the more the NFL gets away from woke political garbage, the higher the ratings go. Now who would have thought that would be the case? We have been saying for months on this channel that embracing politics is a surefire way to destroy a sports league. Credit to Roger Goodell and the NFL for realizing this early on and pretty much putting a stop to the political propaganda. We haven't really heard much from the NBA or LeBron James or really any of their star players in a while. So with the silence in the NBA the past few weeks, it kind of got me to wondering. Right now, the NBA is out of sight, out of mind. It got me thinking about next season. Will people forget about everything that LeBron James and the NBA did throughout the playoffs? And will they forgive and forget? Will the audience come back to the NBA once the league starts back? Will the NBA see an increase in ratings next season? I did some research this week on the NBA's ratings for the past 10 years or so, and I found an interesting correlation. LeBron James is the face of the NBA. I think we can all agree on that. As he was entering his prime in the late 2000s, ratings for the NBA weren't good. The 2007 NBA Finals between the Cavs and the Spurs was the least watched in the history of the league up until that point. Regular season ratings were down. But something happened in 2010. LeBron had the decision. It was the biggest spectacle that we had ever seen in sports when it came to a superstar player deciding where he was going to play the next season. Now, of course, LeBron took his talents to South Beach. We all know that. The entire spectacle of the decision backfired on LeBron James from a public relations perspective. NBA fans didn't like it. They voiced their displeasure all summer on social media. LeBron went from being the most popular player in the league to the biggest pariah. He was booed relentlessly every time he touched the ball on the road during the 2010-11 season. This was the first time, at least in my memory, that the face of the NBA was hated by the majority of the fan base. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, they were loved in the 80s. Michael Jordan, he was loved. For most of his career, Kobe Bryant was loved. Shaq was loved. You get my point. You'd figure with the backlash against LeBron, it would have a negative impact on the NBA's TV ratings. Actually, the opposite happened. The league saw a big increase in ratings. The ratings were up 26%. It turns out people were tuning in to see LeBron James and the Miami Heat fail. The NBA saw increases each of the next 3 years. We're talking about regular season games averaging between 5 and 6 million people. Then something happened that had a negative effect on the NBA. LeBron James started to use his platform to promote his political beliefs. Believe it or not, LeBron wasn't always a social justice warrior. Back in 2007, he declined to sign a letter that was circulating around NBA locker rooms addressing the Darfur genocide. He said at the time that he didn't have enough information on the issue, so he wasn't going to put his name on it. Smart move, very Jordan-esque of LeBron James. 5 years later, LeBron's focus started to shift. It started when Trayvon Martin was murdered by George Zimmerman. LeBron and the Heat started to wear hoodies pregame to show their protest. Then in 2014, he went public and called for Donald Sterling to be forced out of the NBA after his racist comments were uncovered. Later that year, he led the Cavs in wearing the I Can't Breathe t-shirts after Eric Garner was killed by cops in New York City. 2016, he gave a speech at the ESPYs, speaking out against violence, calling athletes to invest their time and money into improving their communities. All of that was innocent enough. Matter of fact, I think most people would agree with most of these things that LeBron was promoting at that time. But that was just the beginning. See, there's a fine line when it comes to athletes and sports leagues using their platforms to promote their political agendas. LeBron was getting ready to cross that line. Something happened in 2016 that had a devastating effect on the NBA. And it was caused by LeBron James himself, kind of. Donald Trump was elected president. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what the hell does Donald Trump being elected president have to do with the NBA's television ratings? Well, LeBron James started to become more and more vocal in the political arena. He actually just went to war with Donald Trump. More importantly, he started to become more one-sided. He was no longer walking that fine line I mentioned a second ago. He jumped straight into the far-left dungeon. He held a campaign rally for Hillary Clinton back in 2016. He called Donald Trump a bum on Twitter in September 2017. He was adamant that teams that won the NBA Finals should buck tradition and not go to the White House. He began using his platform to promote systemic racism or be against systemic racism. He began using his platform to promote Democratic political figures. He began using his platform to denigrate the President of the United States, to bash the President of the United States. Look, LeBron James has the right to use his platform to promote whatever he wants. But there are consequences when athletes embrace politics. The NBA started to see a decline in ratings the more political LeBron became. They dropped 18% for 2016-17. 2018-19, TNT saw its lowest rating since the 2007 season. The reason I brought up the decision earlier and NBA ratings increasing partly due to the fact that fans were tuning in to hate watch LeBron James, they wanted to see him fail, you would figure it would be the same case when he embraced politics. You'd figure people on the Republican side of the aisle would tune in to see LeBron fail. Now, as we all know, that was not the case. It had the opposite effect. This past season, we saw LeBron James and the NBA dive deeper into politics than any sports league has ever done in this country. The more LeBron and the NBA embraced far-left woke politics, the lower the ratings fell. Ratings for the NBA Finals were down 51% over 2019. They averaged about 7 million viewers a game. It was the lowest rated finals in NBA history. Now remember, 7, 8, 9 years ago, the NBA was averaging 5, 6 million people for regular season games. This was a colossal fall in television ratings for the NBA this past season. It was the largest decline among any sports league in the country. So I ask the question again, will the NBA recover next season? Will the ratings go back up? Will they recapture the millions of people that they lost in 2020? It's hard to imagine the NBA seeing another decline in 2021. I mean, the ratings now are conceivably as low as you'd think they could get. I don't see the NBA recovering next season. If anything, I believe we could actually see the ratings lower than they were in 2020. The ratings problem for the NBA, this isn't something that started just a few months ago. That's just when people started to pay attention because the decline was so steep. The NBA has seen a steady decline in television ratings since 2012. Since 2012, regular season ratings for the NBA have dropped or stayed even 5 out of 7 years. The 2016-17 season that I mentioned earlier, that was the lowest regular season ratings in the history of the league. Now, what happened in 2012? That's when LeBron James started to become political. Is that the reason the league has seen a steady decline in ratings since? It's hard to chalk it up to coincidence. I outlined a little bit of it in this video, but go check it out for yourself. The more LeBron used his platform to promote social justice causes, the more the NBA's ratings dropped. Now, some in the media will point to the fact that the NFL recovered quickly after the 2016 season saw double digits ratings decline. That was when Colin Kaepernick was kneeling for the national anthem. Other players followed suit. The NBA is not going to be that lucky. The NBA is not going to recover like the NFL did. I mean, for one, the NFL is far and away the most popular league in the country. It's not even close. But two, and more importantly, in the NFL, we follow teams. Fans of the New England Patriots, they're not cheering for Tampa Bay now because Tom Brady's their quarterback. If Drew Brees left the Saints next season, went to Atlanta, people in New Orleans are not going to be cheering for the Falcons. They're still going to pack the Superdome every Sunday. My point is, players have much less of an impact in the NFL. In the NBA, we follow players. The NBA is a star-driven league. What happened when Michael Jordan retired? Did people tune in the following season to watch the Chicago Bulls? No. Ratings were down double digits. If the NBA doesn't have a superstar player that crosses into the mainstream, the league suffers. That's why ratings were so low in the early to mid-2000s. The NBA was hoping that Kobe Bryant would be able to replace Michael Jordan. Then that whole Colorado incident happened, and it turned the public against Kobe temporarily. It took him years to rehab his public image. The NBA's got a bigger problem right now. Their biggest superstar is viewed as a pariah politically to half the country. And it's not only LeBron James. Chris Paul is woke. Giannis turned himself into a social justice warrior this year by leading that lockout during the playoffs. You even have lower tiered stars like George Hill being vocal politically. Mark Cuban has even jumped on the woke train. In all my years watching the NBA, I have never seen them have this negative of a public perception as they do right now. Bottom line is, right now in the NBA, they have very few star players who are relatable to the general public. Adam Silver isn't doing the league any favors by doing business with China either. Then allowing his players to preach to their audience about racial politics. All the while, the league is making billions in China, whose government is locking minorities into re-education camps, and the league says nothing about it. Mark Cuban has been questioned on this several times. He says nothing about it. People aren't going to just forget about this by January when the NBA is scheduled to start their regular season. This is just my opinion. But I think LeBron James, along with other NBA stars, and Adam Silver for allowing the infusion of woke politics to infect the league, I believe that they have permanently ran off 20 to 30% of their audience. And they're not coming back, at least anytime soon. At this point, there's no turning back for LeBron. The damage has already been done. Unlike Kobe Bryant, LeBron doesn't have 10 years to rehabilitate his public image. His career's almost over. I think people were starting to get turned off by LeBron back in 2012. More were turned off as the years went by and he became more political. But the outright embrace of woke politics that we saw from LeBron in the NBA this past season was the iceberg that is sinking this Titanic. The media can make all the excuses they want. The NBA's in trouble. I believe we are going to see the lowest regular season ratings in 2021 in the history of the league. They're going to break that record they set 3 or 4 years ago. It will have a negative impact on LeBron's legacy. I've said it several times before. LeBron's going to be the first face of the NBA to leave the league in worse shape than when he came in. And when he came into the league in 2003, the NBA was in bad shape. So That's quite the negative accomplishment for LeBron James. He is leaving a rash of negativity for guys like Zion Williamson and John Morant to clean up. I hope they don't follow LeBron's lead and follow him down the path of no return, woke politics. Once an athlete goes this political like LeBron has, it is damn near impossible to come back from it. People can forgive a lot of things. Most Americans aren't forgiving when it comes to politics, which is why it's always better when professional athletes just stay out of politics altogether. That's all for today. Hit that like and subscribe button. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Leave me a comment in the section below. Will you be watching the NBA next season? Do you guys think people will forgive and forget? Or do you think the NBA could continue to decline in 2021? Also, if you're fed up and you're not going to watch the NBA, tell me what it would take for you to start watching it again. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. If you have any questions, a topic you'd like me to discuss, you can email me at BTLKC84@gmail.com. I'll see you guys next time.